Why did Italy go into recession along with Germany after you finished your competition in the race?
Obviously, the last few months of economic performance are naturally inherited from policies from the past couple of years. You know, there is an inertia in the system, and we have not yet even started to implement policies. We have invested the first 6 months of government to debate laws. Now a few laws have been passed, some others are being discussed, but in reality there has been very little impact on the economy because of course even new laws do take time. For example, we have lowered the tax rate for some companies. We are looking at how to design in details the universal basic income, but these will only start in the spring, and so any performance for this last quarter, which we understand will be weak, would actually be, in a way, a good starting point to have an improved performance in 2019 once our reforms are in place. You know, for example, I personally have traveled in many countries to promote the Italian exports, Italian made-in-Italy products. We've been to China, we've been to Japan, Korea, the US, all our European partners. And, of course, the benefits of these activities are now coming to trickle down. But, you know, a $1.7 trillion economy has an inertia, and it does take time for things to take place. The important thing is that we are changing. This is what people have asked us. We are changing the legal system to make it easier to do business in Italy, and we are taking a very open approach to trade with all our partners. And I think this is positive.
Despite the growing pressure of RMB depreciation, we hope that the rise in the number of Chinese travelers in Italy will give a shot in your arm. By the way, honestly, do you think Italy would need another Silvio Berlusconi to enjoy comfortable tax breaks?
No, we do without him for the time being. We are doing, I tell you, we're doing low tax rate, 15% for income below 65,000, which does stimulate small, medium enterprises, small businesses. And indeed, contrary to what people say, we are trying to make life easier for those at the low end of the income spectrum, and specifically micro and small enterprises. In Italy, we have hundreds of thousands of small, medium enterprises with numbers, you know, a handful of people working, maybe family business, very similar, Jan Ray, to the, maybe if I refer to the Wenzhou business model, very few people, a family connection that do business on a very strong entrepreneurial spirit. And for those people, we do try to make life easier by lowering the tax burden, because in our view this is not only the economic drive of the Italian economy, but also it does give an input to the creativity and the innovation that mostly comes from small companies, not from big companies.
I got the latest information that European Council, European Central Bank, as well as IMF are all urging European economies to adopt a single budget plan. Will that seriously impact the prospects of your economy in continental Europe?
I tell you, our view is, and I would like to also bounce back the question to you and your other guest. The IMF has changed their minds a couple of times as to what policies do work when countries are in recession, austerity versus expansion. So we are, you know, of course everyone does their own job and we respect the views of other people, but we have seen that countries need to maintain a certain degree of independence in how to run their fiscal policies. And they should be clear that when there is a recession, we need to spend. We cannot go into austerity, otherwise we end up like other countries in Europe. And so any any initiative that limits the flexibility of countries to run fiscal policy with a certain degree of flexibility, I'm not saying it's completely free because we are part of a monetary union, so there are rules that needs to be respected, but flexibility must be embedded because we have a currency that works relatively well, but we cannot stress it too much. And so any initiative that puts a little bit of a straitjacket on those policies would probably not be good. And I understand that some analysts may flirt with ideas of introducing new mechanisms such as the one that you have mentioned, but the practice suggests that for the time being, there is no hurry to do it, especially, like you said before, maybe we are entering a quarter of not so strong growth. So the least thing we want is to get more constraints on fiscal policies.
I wonder if, Michele, it is true, with the rise of protectionism as well as populism in some of the European economies, and particularly after the sovereign debt crisis kicked off a few years ago, economies in Southern Europe in particular have gone through a very serious period of I would not say recession, but and therefore it's very difficult for European Central Bank to actually coordinate monetary union with physical union. And it's obviously a luxury to talk about the political union, particularly with the impact of Brexit deals.
No, I agree. These are all initiatives that are a little bit ahead of their times. My view is that when things are unclear and there is uncertainty, the intervention should be limited. So instead of moving faster, like with the mantra of further integration, I think it would be best to hold off and fix the current situation. And we indeed, I know you may refer to us as populists, although I never fully understand the meaning of the word, because I do believe that every government in any country of the world, if populist means to do the interest of their own people first, I think this is what every government does. It's not specifically to us or any southern European countries. I think many countries in Asia would be called populist with that definition. And,
excuse me, Michele, we have a Chinese saying, 永远叫不醒装睡的人. It's very, very difficult to wake up those who pretend to be sleepy. No, I mean, it's a joke. Ever since the former top banker of China, Mr. Zhou Xiaochuan, spoke of the possibility that perhaps it's a time for the whole world to consider seriously the construction of a currency that is above the sovereignty of a single nation state. Now, having said this, so let's look at the impact of canceling the Iran nuclear deal. After this was announced by the White House, and particularly after Donald Trump took office, Europeans were taken aback. Michele, I'm talking to you. The Europeans were taken aback immediately by the idea that, and the prospect that European multinationals would be seriously hurt because you pin the hopes on the use of dollars for much of the energy transactions with the Persian state of Iran. Hence, in this context, is it time for European politicians and policymakers to consider seriously raising the international status of euro instead of depending so heavily on the use of US dollars?
Well, my view is in the international currency market, there is space generally for one currency, maybe two, and indeed, if you look at the statistics of dollar usage, out of the top of my head, we're looking at the US dollar being used for about 43–44% of world trade. The renminbi, I believe, below 2%. And it's a bit of a winner-takes-it-all kind of game, because trading in an international currency means that buyers and sellers need to accept it, that they need to see the currency also as a reserve currency, and that means that when economy turns down, it's used as a saving of last resort, if I may say so. And in that respect, I believe the US dollar will continue to be the only currency. We have no interest in using really the euro as an international currency. We do know that that creates problem in the current account balance. Indeed, the US runs a deficit, not immediately due to the fact that the US dollar is an international currency, but we do know that when there is world crisis, economic crisis, people run to buy gold and dollars, just at the time when the US may even want to wish the dollar would go down to boost export, and instead there is worldwide demand. And so that creates a little bit of issues for the country that issued the currency. And so that's why I also believe that the renminbi, the yuan, is not likely to be an international currency in any time soon, and I believe this is in the interest of China. I don't really see what interest would China have to have the yuan being printed and given to traders around the world. I understand that there would be, and it is important that the renminbi is part of the SDR because it kind of gives a status, but beyond the facade, the substance is that people do need to have a fully convertible currency before they can fully accept. And so we are happy with continuing to use the dollar. We have done it for many years. It seems to work, and like all fiat currency, the important thing is that the issuer will take it back in exchange for tax debits.
Thank you so much, Michele.